Hey everyone, my name is Wes, and welcome back to another episode of Terror Talk where I discuss creepy clips online. I created this original horror music to add to the video, and I hope you enjoy it. Be sure to leave your own comments, and when you're done watching, check the description if you'd like to listen to my music without the commentary. Now let's get into it and have some fun.
I'm 16 and live in the city now, but I've spent the first 8 years of my life in the countryside. For some people, it might seem weird, as I was allowed from a very young age to walk around the small village without being supervised by my parents. The area itself wasn't very big, and the entire population was about 90 people maximum. Basically, everyone knew everyone, to the point that me and my friends remembered the car numbers and whom they belonged to.
Dang, only 90 people? Could you imagine living in a place so small? Let me know if you have ever visited a town like that or even ever lived in a town like that. Or if you have any creepy countryside horror stories that you have to share, leave them in the comments below. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense why that person, why these kids are allowed to wander a town that small. Obviously, if it were a bigger city, it would be a different story, hopefully. But it's kind of crazy, isn't it?
It was a hot summer day. My friend and I, who I'll call Julian, were dead thirsty for some Coca Cola. Back then, soda was very cheap at those little supermarkets, and we really needed a couple of pennies to get the right amount of money to buy two cans. Luckily, an old woman called us from her house. She explained that she was going to make some mint tea for everyone since her birthday was coming up. The issue was, she ran out of mint plants, so she told us that if we'd fill two plastic bags with mint leaves, she would buy us as much soda as we wanted. Julian and I thought it was a great idea, since I didn't want to ask my parents for any money. Soon later that day, we started digging. The sun was literally frying our foreheads, and our clothes were soaked in sweat. We searched for mints, but despite our efforts, we barely filled half of the first plastic bag. Both of us were very mad, since we knew there was no way we would actually manage to gather enough leaves before the sun went down. Still, we kept walking and looking around, hoping that some miracle would happen and we would find a field full of plants. Suddenly, two tall guys approached us, completely out of nowhere. And when I say tall, they were probably like 5'7", yet they seemed like giants to our 7-year-old selves. And what surprised me the most was that they were both covered in black clothes, with large hoodies and tight pants. None of them looked older than 17, despite being very hard to make out their facial features. They talked to us in a very friendly, childish voice, their words carefully chosen to not raise any suspicion. Are you kids both alone? Julian looked at me. He seemed a little worried and made a hand gesture that signed to leave. Unfortunately, body language was never my cup of tea, so I didn't understand what he wanted us to do. I shifted my attention back to the two guys and spoke in a rather cheerful voice, saying, "Yeah, we're actually looking for some mint plants." And
Yeah, when two guys like this approach a couple of little kids and they're alone, that's never a good sign, is it? And these are obviously two very creepy guys, but yeah, there are a lot of sick people in the world, and it just goes to show you that even a tiny small village like this of 100 people, 200 people, whatever it is, things can still happen. So it's really good that the other kid was aware of it. But too bad this other, little girl couldn't pick up the cues that something is wrong. But yeah, it just goes to show you that anything can happen anywhere, really.
then asked where we could find a bunch of those. We've been looking for so long and we're really tired. Now, I'm not really sure, but I have a short flashback of one of the two guys smirking when they heard what we were looking for. One of them crouched next to me and patted my head. Julian quickly came close to me, pulling me back by the arm a little when he saw the guy touching me. His expression was serious, almost a little panicked, and he asked, "Who are your parents?" You see, from where I come from, that question requested the answer to be by last name, since there were so few people, not many new generations were born. So asking who your parents were was a common way to identify the entire bloodline of the person. Julian was born in the countryside, so he knew the people much better than me. I assume he was scared because he didn't recognize the two guys, and the fact that they were talking to two small kids without anyone around and even patting my head instantly sent a red flag to him. Just as he feared, They avoided the question, looking like I was their main interest. Actually, I've seen a big field of mints. You see that hill over there? That's where we come from. If you want, we could lead you to the field and help you fill those bags, or even more. Of course, we knew that hill. Julian and I and the other kids would play hide and seek in its forest at night, and it was such fun I can't even describe it. But still, not once have I ever seen any sort of mint field. After all, the only things that grew there were corn, grapes, and some watermelons. Again, I was a very idiotic kid, and all of those red flags meant nothing serious to me. I nodded eagerly, pulling Julian by the arm to come with me. The guys seemed satisfied and began to lead the way. We were walking further and further away from the village, and I could feel my friend's hand tremble in mine. At that point, I felt a sudden shiver down my spine, as the village was now completely nowhere to be seen. The forest was right in front of us, and I could see that there was no trace of any field of mint. I tried asking the guys where we were going, but they gave very vague answers like, "You'll see," or "Just be patient." I began to sweat as well, and slowed my steps a little. Panic was rushing through my veins, and I quickly realized something bad was going to happen. But for some reason, I couldn't stop walking. I knew for sure that if either of us tried to step back, something really, really bad would happen. Then, very discreetly, Julian came close to my ear, and I still get chills remembering this so vividly. He whispered as silently as he could, "There's something wrong with these two. Run." That was the last thing I heard when Julian began sprinting downhill like crazy, his hand not breaking contact with mine for a single second. I was running as if my life depended on it, and it probably did, actually. I could hear the two guys curse, and eventually they started chasing us from behind. I started crying loudly with fear, not stopping in my tracks. I'm sure I wasn't even breathing, and I can't understand how in the world I ran for almost 2 kilometers back into the village without a break. Or
Yeah, this is pretty crazy, isn't it? Those sickos leading these kids into the woods, and I mean, it's really good that her friend picked up on this and told her to run because I mean, how can you be so freaking stupid? I mean, was she really that stupid as a little kid? Sorry, but not sorry. Like freaking stupid. How stupid she actually was. But yeah, this is just kind of crazy that there are people out there that would do this kind of thing.
a breath. The woman who asked us to look for the mint saw us both, full of tears and sweat. Our faces were pale, as if all the blood left our bodies in that very moment. At some point, as we got closer to the village, those guys must have stopped following us. She calmly took us inside and gave us some chocolate to feel better. She asked what had happened. Julian was the one to tell her, since my mouth was completely paralyzed. As soon as he finished, the woman gave us a worried look and scolded us for being so stupid. Well, scolded Julian, as he lied, saying I didn't want to follow them and he insisted on trusting the guys. After that incident, he wasn't allowed to come outside and play for a month, while I needed lots of time to recover from the small trauma. I never found out who those guys were, or what they wanted from us. Looking back now, much older, I can likely guess. That doesn't sit well with me. While we were running, there was a huge chance I could have tripped and fell, since running downhill at that speed was very risky. If it wasn't for Julian, who is now my boyfriend, I don't even want to imagine what those guys would have done to us.
Yeah, I don't think it's fair that the other kid got in trouble for her stupidity, for her absolute moronic stupidity. That kind of angers me a little bit, but either way, really creepy story, and it just goes to show you that really anything could happen anywhere, couldn't it? Like, literally anything could happen anywhere. So, even in a really small town, if you have kids, just keep an eye on things. Like, don't let things, slide by, super easily just because it's a small town, because this story proves that really anything could happen anywhere. But I thought this was definitely a creepy story, and I hope you enjoyed the commentary and the music, and I will see you in the next video.